Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Renee. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thanks.
Are you going to be our new liaison?
I would be your new liaison, but this morning I did submit my resignation, so I'm in for 2 more weeks.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I
Was that
for tonight.
okay? So all right. I guess you can share what you want to on that one, or what you don't want to.
Okay. I'll wait until the meeting gets started.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Does anyone know, is Ellen planning on being here tonight?
No, Ellen's away. So
Who is chairing tonight? Is David?
David Freeman. Yeah.
Okay. We'll wait till he arrives.
Catherine, welcome to the committee. This is your first meeting, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, David
Welcome.
introduced me, but he's not here yet. Okay.
Yes, I'm sure he will.
Okay.
Okay, so how come everyone's coming up with my name on their connection? That's really odd.
Oh,
Or is
yeah.
it just me that sees it that way?
No, yeah, I do too.
No,
I do
I
see
couldn't
3 of
get,
you.
I couldn't get the invitation, so I stole your,
Oh, yeah,
Invite.
I was scrolling down. Yeah, me too. I was scrolling down and trying to find it and yeah.
No
So
worries.
I
I know who you guys are, so I
I can try to
can
change
note you
it,
appropriately.
actually.
Oh, maybe
No,
I would have to go
fine.
out, I think, and click on to the one that was sent to me, maybe. I think everybody knows me except maybe Catherine. Hi, welcome. I'm Debbie
Hi.
Sullivan.
Oh, hi, Debbie.
Ignore that name there,
Hey, Catherine.
because Renee is this other person.
Okay, okay.
Sorry
Um,
if that's confusing for you.
And
It's
I'm
all
Dan Kushnick.
all right. I'll have to write down your names.
Oh,
It's okay. Debbie
Sorry.
Sullivan, right?
Debbie Sullivan, yes, so sorry, I
Mm,
was being lazy.
And Dave, you're the one I've been emailing with, right?
Yes, it's Dan.
Oh, it's Dan. Oh, it's okay. I had to,
It's okay.
yeah.
Can't remember my own name half the time, so there you go.
Okay. And is there also a Dave?
There is also a Dave.
Yes,
Okay,
Yes,
yeah, no, I
Dave
was
Freeman.
emailing with somebody named Dave.
Dave is supposed to be running the meeting tonight
I forgot
because
about that.
Ellen is away.
Away, okay.
David. I think he goes by David, doesn't he?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's David.
And so you're the real Renee over there.
Will the real Renee please stand up? That'd be me. Dan, you changed your name. How'd
I
you do
did.
that?
I
Oh,
went into participants and there is and it said Renee me, and then I was able to change it.
Where
you
do you find participants?
On the, I have a iPad, but on the upper right corner, does it say, or somewhere along the top, does it say participants?
I
So you
have
can
it
see
on the bottom. It shows
Okay.
Yeah,
participants.
mine's on the bottom too. It depends on what you're.
Oh, yeah,
but-
yeah,
And
yeah, I see.
good.
Okay.
And it says you can
Okay.
rename it.
It does.
Oh, how about that?
Do you,
No.
do you see Renee meet?
Rename.
Right, which one am I, which Renee am I? Oh, I see.
Does it
there
say
it is.
me? Does it say
Yeah, yeah.
me next to your name?
Don't change mine on me, okay? That could
No,
be
it doesn't
really
say,
confusing.
but it, I
Well,
don't-
try one and then,
I think you can only change yourself because
Right.
if I click on me.
Oh, I see. Yes, it does say me. You're right.
Lets me change my name. That's actually really good to know.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's great.
Very handy.
Um,
hey, Christie,
There we go. Thank you. Now, how do I get rid of this?
There we
No,
go.
that wasn't
Well
it.
done.
Renee, are you in Vermont?
I am in Vermont. Where are you? Also in Vermont? Yeah.
Oh,
Wish we had a bit
wow.
more snow, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there any in the forecast? I haven't even looked.
Saturday, a little bit. It's like 31 degrees though. It's right on the edge.
Okay.
It started melting today too.
Yeah.
But at
Have
least you
been
have,
skiing?
we went today for a little bit. We went yesterday for a little bit. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's not a lot. But I'm happy to be here. No complaining.
True. Good point. Me too.
So David's running it tonight, right?
Correct.
Yes.
he just sent an email. I'm waiting on Zoom, but the host has not yet arrived.
Is he on the wrong link?
Well, I'm the host, so I don't see him and I don't see any attendees. So I see 6 panelists, us. I don't see him. Can he,
Maybe he's on the
Okay.
wrong link.
He
Yeah.
must be on the wrong.
I don't know. I asked him to send me a link and he said he couldn't because he's not allowed to share it. So there, David.
What?
No, I couldn't get the link. So I asked him if he would share his link with me. And he said, oh, I'm not allowed. They asked me not to share it. I think they send it to everybody because each person
Yeah.
gets
They do.
signs in.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
free. He's
I
Freeman,
can't
right?
send it to
David
you.
Freeman.
Yes.
yes,
Uh-huh.
Send
right.
send him a Renee's link.
That would work for everyone.
No, I
I'll
forgot
find it,
about
send it to
that.
him.
I forgot about that and I just went to the village website and clicked on the main link on the front and came in that way. So
Yeah, because it said,
Yeah.
because I tried that and it said you couldn't participate, like you couldn't be a part. You
Oh.
you couldn't get video, you could only like observe. but you
Oh,
couldn't-
really? Huh. Well, so did you
Alright.
tell him to try another link
I will do it now.
or send him Renee's link? I think that one was a good one.
I sent him mine. I don't know if I'm unmuted or not.
You are.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, I sent him mine and just said we're in. I don't know if it will work. I don't know what the criteria are.
Even if he comes in as an attendee, I can promote him or do whatever.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I have that email from Sally. Should I just forward it to him?
Sure. Yeah.
Let me find it.
Well, I think Christy just did that, right, Christy?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Eddie.
Not yet.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I guess Mandy and Tim are both saying they
Yeah.
might not be coming.
The kids.
Yeah.
Kelly, you're in for Tom tonight?
Actually, I was appointed the new liaison to this committee.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Uh-oh. We ran Tom out, huh?
You didn't. But here's someone's coming in.
There he is.
David.
There he
Hello?
is.
He's Christy Young now.
My goodness. How are you? How is everybody? I'm sorry, my link wasn't working.
That's okay. Sometimes these things happen. I was just explaining to everyone, hi, David, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. That I was assigned to be the liaison to this committee going forward. But as I was telling Renee, as we just logged on, as of this morning, I'm resigning as a trustee effective January 4th. So
Wow.
yeah,
Oh.
I'm wrapping things up. I have no doubt you will land in good hands in a couple of weeks. I don't know what Tom's plans are in terms of appointments and how things might shift around, but I know you'll end up in good hands. You guys are a great committee. I and everyone on the board really admires everything you're doing. And so I know you'll end up in good hands.
So can we ask why you're resigning? Is that possible?
Oh, you, of course you may. We have a house in Florida that is just ending construction. It was not our plan to start living in Florida in the winters when we started building the house, but COVID shifted priorities, as I'm sure you've all experienced some changes in COVID. And so we have decided that we'd like to become snowbirds starting now. So
Wow. I
yeah.
don't blame you.
Good for you.
Yeah.
yeah, it was not our plan at all. But we've been just kind of giving it a lot of thought and decided we're going to go down and we're not going to come back right away. We're just not going to.
Nice.
Well, if you're going to be in Florida, it's very hard to be a trustee up here. That's for
That's
sure.
right. That's exactly right. That's right.
What part of Florida?
Marco Island.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's on the West Coast.
Yeah. I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
So why don't we get started? We obviously have a short agenda and we have a limited number of people. So there's no point in prolonging things. So the first thing on the agenda is actually the first thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes, but I'd actually rather start with the introductions. So what we do, Catherine, usually when new people come on, we each,
Huh?
Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Each of us gives a thumbnail sketch of ourselves, and then you can get on and give a thumbnail sketch of yourself.
Okay, sounds good.
Does that make sense?
Sure, why not?
So I'm David Freeman. I'm let's see, I've been on the committee for 3 or 4 years. I'm a environmental lawyer by training and profession, and live in Shore Acres and with my wife, and we have 2 grown children, one in Atlanta with grandchildren, and another daughter in Brooklyn.
Great, thanks. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Who else wants to go?
I'll go next. So I'm Renee Crabtree.
The real one, okay.
The real one. And I've been on the committee for a couple years. I live in Orienta. I have 3 grown kids. One's just moved out of Brooklyn, actually, back to Manhattan. One's out in Tahoe, living the dream, as her father says, and the other is still at college. So
Okay.
Yeah, but they all have gone through the Mamaroneck, Larchmont Mamaroneck school system. No formal training in environment. It's just a passion of mine.
Yeah. Okay. Nice to meet you, Renee.
I'm
Nice to
Dan
meet you.
Kushnick. How are you, Catherine? I grew up in Mamaroneck, moved away, and then moved back like 6 years ago. And I have 3 kids. One lives at home permanently, and the one's in Chicago, and the other one just finished her MBA at Brandeis and is looking for work in hospital administration. So we're hoping she moves back out. And I have a background in energy savings, and that's sort of my focus here with the committee.
Cool. Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Yes, you.
So I'm Debbie Sullivan, and I moved to Mamaroneck 6 years ago with my daughter, she was a freshman in high school at the time. She went to Rhinebeck. We live in the Rhinebeck area, and she's now in college. She's home for whatever, till she goes back, hopefully in February. And I retired in 2019 as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And one of the things I really wanted to do when I retired was focus more on environmental kinds of projects, which I got to join this committee. And one of the things that I guess a year ago, I just joined a year ago. And at the time, one of the things that we kind of, everybody got a kind of area that they wanted to work in. And so the Climate Smart Community sort of subcommittee formed, which has now formed a whole separate committee. And I'm part of that committee. So that's me.
Awesome.
And I'm Christy Young. I've been, sorry, hearing feedback. I've been in Mamaroneck for about 9 or 10 years, and my son is in the Rhinebeck School District in 6th grade in the middle school, and I started sort of trying to make myself available to the PTSA, and now I've been on the village environmental committees for 3 or 4 years as well. And yeah, the motivation is really just community based and trying to help, everyone pitch in. That's what I like to do.
That's great. So I guess that's everybody. Yeah, I don't know if anybody saw the letter that I wrote. So you kind of, a little bit about me already then. So yeah, we moved up to this area. It's actually a long time ago now. 29 years to Larchmont originally, and now we've been in the village about 15 years, I think. I grew up in Chappaqua, so, but I've lived in a lot of places, California, Toronto, and so forth. I've been basically a kind of an environmentalist, really since I was a kid. And I did study at Columbia. I was a geography major, which is a very hybrid thing. It covers a lot of economics too, but but you get your environmental science and your hydrology and your soil science and all that. And then later I also went to City College and did a chunk of a master's in earth science, earth system science. At that point I was thinking, I was looking to see what I was going to kind of do once I got my kids out of the house type of thing. I had worked in finance actually, in Canada and in New York. I kind of learned I'm not really a scientist. It was just a bit much for me, learning how to program and things like that. It was to really do that. It wasn't really for me, but so, and also I had, on the strength of that, I suppose, years ago, I don't know if any of you knew Phyllis Whitner. So when I was in Larchmont, she was the town of Mamaroneck town councilwoman for years and years and years. And and I was involved in the IKEA thing, and whatever, I got to know her. So she asked me to be on coastal zone. So I did that. And I still had, kids in high school and all that. And it was really a bit much to manage. So I just did the one term, but I have that background too. So in any event, yeah, I mean, I think my personal feeling is like the village is just a gem. I love it. With the rivers coming down into it, the sound, I just absolutely adore it. I like the diversity. I live up on Heathcote Hill. You've got such a range of people here. It's just a wonderful place. I really, want to do my part in trying to protect it as much as possible as I can, working with all of you, open space, protecting open space, protecting the rivers, and just, making sure we have good policy, that's it. So I just figured, I don't know where to start. I checked out some of the committees. The coastal zone is so technical and engineering oriented that I just thought, God, I can't try to do that again. So this seemed like a good fit. I actually came to one of your meetings. I scoped out all the meetings and I thought, who's cool? Who am I going to like? And so I threw my hat into your ring and now you're stuck with me. So anyway,
we're very flattered and we're very glad to have you on the committee. It's a good committee.
Yeah.
We work hard. We actually have accomplished some concrete things.
Awesome.
And we have people with some expertise in the relevant areas.
Yeah.
So I think we've been, and I think Kelly just said it, but I think we've been effective in terms of what we've chosen to do. We can't do everything, but we've picked on some specific things where we think we can make a difference. And I think we have made a difference. So
awesome.
Welcome to the
Thank
group.
you so
And we're
much.
glad to have you.
Thank you. Okay. That's great.
So why don't we move on to the minutes? We have an excellent secretary who is on the phone, and we always have outstanding minutes. So I'd like to move the minutes be approved.
I'll second that.
Move.
All in favor?
No. Aye.
All opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the Clean Energy Climate Smart Committee or Communities update, which I'll give since I'm on the it's actually a task force. It was appointed just before our last meeting, and we actually piggybacked on the last CFTE meeting. We had a task force meeting afterwards. The bottom lines for what happened at the meeting is we went through a list of, and Catherine, if you don't know this already, you will find out. There are, the state of New York has two programs, a climate smart community and a clean energy community. It's confusing. They're run by two different state agencies. They overlap, but fundamentally, if you are a climate smart community and also a clean energy community, you can get state grants. That's a big incentive. And we have been working to go up the food chain. We are a registered climate smart community. We want to be a certified community. And to do that, you have to accomplish a list of actions with certain numbers of points. So there's a scorecard. And we went through the scorecard at our last task force meeting. And the homework that Tom Murphy agreed to assign to either Jerry or Dan was to help us put together a list of priorities based on what has been accomplished and just needs documentation, what we think we can easily accomplish, and what might be a little longer term, and then set out a list of priorities that we will end up recommending to the village in terms of how to move forward. So we'll have our next meeting after we get that report back from either Jerry or Dan. In the meantime, we nominated Ellen Silver, who's, as everybody knows, is chair of this committee, to be the Climate Smart Communities Coordinator, which is an office that needs to be filled in order to have us qualify for the next step. And I guess, Kelly, I don't know whether that we made a request to the board to actually formally appoint Ellen to be the coordinator. Do you know whether that's been acted on?
It has been, and she was appointed.
Okay, great. So we now have an official coordinator, and we can start meeting and have those meetings count officially toward our certification. So that's where we are with the CSC. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
No, the only thing I want to say is I've been following up with the NYSERDA grants for the EV chargers, and the NYSERDA money has run out. So I think
Oh,
we missed the boat on that one for the
Too bad.
moment, but there may be more money coming.
Well, there's got to be more money. There's the environmental bond just passed. That's what, 400 million. I mean, there's a lot of money around for things like that, and they just have to, I guess, refill the coffers with the grant money, because that's clearly it's going to have to.
It's kind of what I figured. So I'll stay on it.
Great.
I don't know why it's a pet passion of mine, but it has become. So I will stay on top of it.
Great. Okay, if there's no further comment on the Clean Energy Climate Smart, the next agenda item is the Climate Emergency Declaration. As you may know, the town passed one last month. The County of Westchester passed a Climate Emergency Declaration the month before. There are 2,000 other jurisdictions in over 37 countries that have passed similar declarations. And I guess looking at the town's declaration, there are a couple of moving parts. There's a lot of verbiage, a lot of whereases and background information, which is interesting but not actionable. Reading through the town's declaration, it declares a climate emergency, and it directs in the town the Sustainability Collaborative to help develop the town's response and present that to the town board within the next year. I guess if the village decided, and maybe I should stop here and ask Kelly, because I know that, or at least I read from Tom, an email that Tom sent out, that he was going to put this on a work session.
I have not seen it on, actually, we didn't get to it. It may have gone on to the work session. We didn't get to it at the last meeting. The next meeting will be the second Monday in January.
Okay, so we're still timely.
Yeah.
So what we had thought was that we would pass a resolution urging the village to follow the lead of Mamaroneck and these other 2,000 jurisdictions and declare a climate emergency. Obviously, we have one. If Hurricane Ida is telling us anything, we are already in a climate emergency. And I personally didn't draft a proposed resolution. I thought perhaps that would be presumptuous, but you could take a look at the town's declaration and wouldn't take you very long to draft an appropriate resolution. I suppose if the town or the village wanted us to draft a resolution for them, we could do it, although there's no reason that there's no magic. There's no rocket science to drafting this resolution. In any event, what I'd like to propose is that the the committee pass a resolution urging the village to declare a climate emergency and approach us for help either drafting the resolution if they need that, or if not, to pass the resolution and then task us with helping the village implement the resolution and develop some strategies to address the climate emergency that we've just recognized is occurring.
That's a great idea.
So I move that we adopt that motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yeah, Dave, so does the town, are there actionable items, or it's just that the town declare, or the village declares that there is a climate crisis, and then the committee or someone would come up with actionable items that down the road, to take?
Well, I can't speak to the 2,000 other jurisdictions. I know what the town's emergency declaration was, and it's fundamentally, number one, a declaration that there's an emergency, and number two, declaring that the town will do whatever it can to ameliorate or help ameliorate the situation, but the specific action item was to direct the Sustainability Collaborative to come up with specific ideas for the town to implement.
Okay, so it's a step in the process, but it first needs to be declared before it can move forward.
Right. I mean, I think, to be honest with you, this is a lot of is symbolism.
Right.
But it is taking a stand, even if it's a symbolic stand, and it is beginning to put into motion a process for developing specific plans to address the emergency. And of course, we're on the way to doing that with the Climate Smart Communities program and the Clean Energy Communities program, but this puts a little more emphasis on those efforts.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
think it's to really get the village to be 100% behind doing this. And, a lot of it has to be done by the village, really, with our help, but the village has to do a lot of it.
Right. I mean, our role is advising the village board. We don't have any powers independent of that. But this will, if the village passes it, will empower us or put the village on record as they're wanting us to, on an emergency basis, to work to give them activities to implement to address this issue.
So we're
So-
not filling sandbags yet.
No, well,
Well, I think we
Yeah.
already did. We already did fill sandbags.
okay, so I'm going to call for a vote unless there's further discussion.
The only thing I was going to say, David, is I think that if you have a draft resolution for the Board of Trustees, that it just makes it that much easier for them to move forward with it.
Well, I haven't drafted anything.
I know.
So, I mean, and Kelly, you can maybe advise us as to what would be effective for us to do here.
So I think what you proposed is good, David, which is that what I could do is I could report to the Board of Trustees that this committee voted probably unanimously to declare a climate emergency, and that you pledged to work on strategies with the Board of Trustees to address the emergency. And I think that language going to the Board of Trustees would be fine. And it could be additional backup to whatever Tom put on the work session. If you want, let me look up, if you'll indulge me, I'll look up what backup was included on the work session. Sometimes Dan Sarnoff will draft these resolutions for us. And I just wanted to see if there is a draft resolution in the backup, if you don't mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the reason I didn't try to draft it is, first of all, the town's resolution is very town-specific in terms of the things the town has done, as opposed to the village. So it would take a little work to modify it to suit the village. Not that much work, but some. But I also thought it's really not our job in some ways to draft resolutions for the village board. The village board tends to do that on its own. Would we be willing to help if we were asked?
Okay, let me just see. I think, yeah, I think the village could or the board of trustees, or, you know, or Dan could easily get something drafted.
Okay,
Um,
so you can make the offer that if they would like our help drafting it,
yeah,
we
I
would do
will.
that. And if not, they could assume that we are open to being tasked with the job of helping the village address the emergency in the same way the town has tasked their sustainability collab to do that for the town.
Yep, okay. That's fine, and I'll report on that. If you guys can go ahead, if I find a draft resolution, I'll share it with you.
Great.
Okay,
Okay. The next, I guess we have to vote.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Okay,
All
and you
right.
know what? I'll just tell you, I am not seeing that it was on our agenda at the last meeting. My guess is that I saw an email about it, that perhaps it'll be added to the next one. But in any case, I will send an email to them to make sure it's on the next agenda.
right.
Okay,
Great.
Yep.
Okay, another item that actually Ellen was very anxious to have us address, and that is the food scrap recycling. Background on that, I think most of us are familiar with. We have a food scrap recycling program. For a long time, it was people bringing their scraps personally to the Fayetteville Recycling Center. Then about 2 years ago, an enterprising group of Rhinebeck High School students put together a business in which the gist of which was they collected the food scraps once a week for, I believe it was originally $10 a month. It's gotten a little more expensive, but it saved people from having to drive down to the Fayetteville dump site. And particularly during COVID, when it was closed on Saturdays, that was a great thing. And it reduced auto traffic and emissions by having one cart in effect do the entire route of pickups. And they have more than 100 customers who are paying, at this point, I think it's $15 a month on average. But they can't sustain the business, I think, in part because the people who originally started it are now in college, and they haven't been able to recruit successors, and they're having trouble finding drivers, and it's gotten a little bit too much for them to handle. So they are going out of business as of the end of this month. So what happens next? At least initially, everybody's either going to have to stop recycling their food scraps, which would be a step backward in terms of environmental conscientiousness, or take them personally to the Fayetteville Recycling Center, which some of us will do, but not everybody. We thought it was time for the village to step up, as some other communities have done, Scarsdale in particular, but I think others as well in Westchester, and actually begin curbside pickup of food scraps. Now, there's some complications which Jerry Barbario mentioned in an email in terms of the unions and, the costs, which we are obviously can't be oblivious to. What I did was, at Ellen's request, draft a resolution, which I circulated to everybody, I think is on the meeting, in the meeting materials. And and fundamentally what it does is ask the village board to seriously consider taking up the mantle of doing food scrap recycling as a municipal service and taking into account budgetary and other constraints. So it's not asking the village, it's not demanding that the village do it. It's registering our interest in the village, taking a serious look at it, which I think is not that controversial. And I think it's worth our going on record as saying this is important to us and we'd like this issue to be given serious consideration. With that, let me open the floor to comments and questions.
So Jerry, I think Jerry said that they're into, there's 2 or 3 years left in the contract with the union, so they have to renegotiate that contract, which I'm in favor of them at least having the negotiation. Whether if it becomes too costly down the road to redo an entire new contract and it jacks up the taxes, then that's another question. But I'm certainly in favor of them, making this resolution and asking them to the village to look at research it.
Do we have any idea like what the volume was, or how significant it was as a program, and removing like what kind of volume of waste got pulled out of the regular system? Do we know? Do we have any facts?
Yeah.
It's 100 families.
Right?
It's 100 families, right, that are signed up approximately.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was several tons a month. I don't have the figures, and we actually at
It's on the
certain,
village
we're
website.
keeping very careful track of it. We had graphs. I can pull it out if you want. I probably have it somewhere in my files. But we kept careful track. We did not ever break out how much the ASAP scraps component was. So we don't know what percentage of the total tonnage was contributed by them, but we do know the total tonnage. It's increased over time, but not exponentially, because particularly since during COVID, people aren't going out of their way to make special trips to the Fayette recycling facility. But while we're having this conversation, I can take a look at my files and see if I can find any data.
Would we, assuming the village were to take it on, I mean, we're talking about like the regular sanitation workers, right? That it would be an extra pickup or something like that, I suppose. So then if we're going to do that, then I guess we also want to have more buy-in, because 100 families is not a lot in a village of 13. I don't know how many families live in the village. I don't know. It's 13,000 people live in the village, right, Kelly? Something like that?
No, it's closer to 20,000 people.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
that's probably like, then like maybe say 7,000 families or something, 6,000 families. So, seems like we'd want to promote it.
I mean, I think it's a kind of a tricky time right now because the DPW was exhaustively involved with helping with the flooding, to the point where, communities were coming together and trying to, give thanks. And I don't know if they're ready to take on an even consideration, not to mention the politics of, would that mean removing one trash day and replacing it with that? I mean, I think it's complex and fraught with issues that people will have. But I would hope that there's some entrepreneurial independence that for, 100 families at $15 a month, maybe there's a chance that someone else could just pick this up as a day job on Fridays, because, it was certainly beneficial. But I would be okay to encourage the village to suggest that they consider it in future, but they've got some big fish to deal with first. There's still garbage in the trees and the rivers, and we're still having cleanup days and hauling out fuel tanks and propane tanks, and there's still a lot of that work that they haven't even been able to get to, and I think they're still trying to clean it up. So yes, encourage you to think about it, but maybe continue to reach out to any individuals that might find this an independent venture, because unfortunately, as a business, it was also fully donated to good causes. So it wasn't actually a business per se, but it was, help them with their college applications, but they didn't make any money. Maybe somebody wants to make some money.
It's a 501c or whatever that is still in existence.
Right.
My understanding, if someone wanted to take it over, but there's no reason why someone else couldn't start it as a side business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that I personally have tapped my ability to even talk to people about it. And right now, I think just based on COVID, it's complicated to consider driving around to people's houses. But I'm hoping there'll be some motivation by spring again.
So this is what I found. I
Okay.
don't know if you can see it. This is probably the last of the charts we got. It goes through, I guess, 2021, the end of November 2021. And we were basically between 3 and 5 tons a month of food waste composted. It's not insignificant.
Wow.
What's the blue line and what's the yellow line, David?
The yellow line, the bottom line was 20, this was the first year, the bottom line. The second year was the yellow line.
Oh, okay.
And the third year we ended up, we were ahead, and then they sort of stopped doing the calculations, or at least I don't have the calculations past November 20. Well, it says fiscal year 2021, November. That can't be. According to this, this is through November 2021, but I don't think that's correct. In any event, the last year they stopped taking the data, and we were ahead at the time they stopped. But as you can see, the growth has been gradual, not exponential.
So who was doing that data?
I believe it was the village.
Because it seems like this service is going to be ending January 1, and we really should be getting data to see what the change is once this service stops.
Yeah, I think as Christy said, the village has had other fish to fry recently, but I think you're right in principle. And there was a lot of discussion at one point about changing, but then again, you're talking about union issues, about ending the practice of picking garbage up in people's bins, but having them take it out to the street. And at one point, there was a statement made that if you streamline the pickup by making people take their garbage to the street as opposed to leaving it in trash bins next to their houses, you'd save enough time so that you could have an extra pickup. I don't know that to be a fact, but circumstantially, one can hypothesize that you could do something along those lines potentially.
There was so much pushback on that, like on places like Nextdoor and stuff like that. People were just outraged about that, and they abandoned that idea because of the opposition to it. So,
Yeah, I don't subscribe to Nextdoor, but I can imagine.
yeah. And I mean, if people aren't willing to take their garbage cans out to the curb, they're not going to be willing to take it to the, recycling center. So,
That's for sure. So maybe, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, just to vouch on, not that I have any opinion in this, but my elderly neighbors would be best served to be able to have their trash picked up from the side because it's a challenge for them to get it to the curb. And so, I think if there's some exceptions, lazy is one thing, but who's going to say whether you're lazy or incapable? And that's
Mhm.
well,
that's
there
a
were
tricky line.
proposals at the time that, people who did have difficulty could register and those people would be serviced and all of this, but
I don't know. It's just reaching those people, having this conversation, signing off on it.
Yeah.
It's a
Anyway.
lot of labor.
anyway, that they killed that because there was so much opposition to it. So,
So I think the answer is that all those points are good ones. I don't think it means that we shouldn't have passed this resolution, because as I said, the resolution basically puts us on record as being in favor of supporting the idea of taking a close look at this issue,
mhm.
which I think is not a controversial position to take.
Yeah.
And if they take a close look at it and they decide this is not the right time, then it's not the right time.
I just wanted to throw in there, I happen to be down at that Fayetteville, site, chatting with, I think his name is Robert, who works
That's
down there.
what-
He's everybody knows him. He's very friendly. He's very talkative. Anyway, at which point somebody pulls up in a truck and it's the father of these kids. So as you said, David, it was a bunch of kids that were doing this, set it up as a thing to do for whatever reason, a good deed that they were doing. But he said, oh, they've all gone to college now and it's on me. So he was driving his his car around town and he had the whole back full of all kinds of garbage.
Yeah,
So
that was,
it's kind of a small scale operation. Maybe some high school kids in Mamaroneck would, step up and take it on as their next good deed, because
Well,
yeah.
I also ran into him there and he said that they had tried very hard to find people to do it, but they don't have a dedicated vehicle.
Mhm.
And a lot of people didn't want all this garbage in their cars. He was using the back of his SUV to transport, and they put it in these giant tubs that weigh, I think he said like over 100 pounds.
Yeah.
And so they're very heavy. So like there were a couple of girls who were doing it, but they really couldn't manage it, so
Mhm.
that's the system they have, is like throwing it in the back of an SUV. And then the parents were complaining about the cars smelling and blah, blah, blah. So it was, kind of a little bit fly by night, but with one pickup truck, it seems like one pickup truck and two guys, it would be pretty doable, but as a money-making proposition, it seems like you could make some money at it if you were charging $15 a month, but maybe not. I don't know, that's $1,500 for like 4 hours a week work. I don't know.
yeah, but I mean, the problem is if you're really trying to do it as a business, you have insurance,
Right,
you
that's,
pay somebody, you have
Right.
employment. I mean, it's actually,
yeah,
it's not gonna, the opportunity cost of the time involved and the relatively meager profits you'd make
Right.
after all the expenses is not gonna make it ever a going concern. And that's the kind of thing that municipalities do, is they take over public service things that you can't charge for, but are good for the community.
well, Jerry also sent around that thing of a service that's, I guess, a hauling service that was $30 a month.
It was much more expensive.
Right, but I mean, is that a possibility that people could do that?
Sure,
And
it's $7 a pickup. per week and it's over $30 a month. So it's over, it's a lot of money. You're not gonna get a lot of people doing that.
Right. I mean, but people could know about that as an option, I suppose, but then that goes outside of the village of Mamaronex's.
Yeah, it doesn't improve. You would never be able to figure out what the village's contribution was to that waste
Right.
stream.
Right, or what we could do in the future if the village wants to take it over, we wouldn't know how much was being diverted, So. It's kind of sad.
Well, it's complicated, but I think, as I said, I think it's important for us to go on record that we like the program and we'd like the village seriously to look at how they could fill this gap that's being left by ASAP Scraps closing down and not doing this anymore.
Right,
Okay.
I agree.
So with that,
I'm in
I'm gonna-
favor of that.
I move the adoption of the resolution. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Yes.
Favor.
Lots in favor.
David, you said that you sent a draft of that resolution.
Yes, I did.
I couldn't find it. Would you mind just really quickly resending it?
Who's talking?
Sorry?
Renee.
Oh, Debbie?
No,
Renee.
Renee.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll resend it
Thank you.
Can't find anything here.
because it's actually, it should be attached to the minutes probably.
Or maybe it was, and I didn't scroll down far enough. That's quite possible.
There's so many emails about the agenda, et cetera, that I can't find anything.
I can circulate a copy of the resolution to everybody after the meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. And Kelly, you can tell everybody at the work session that we've done that.
Will you provide a copy of the resolution to the Board of Trustees, or do you want to send it to me and I'll forward it on? Whatever you want to do is fine.
Well, I'll send it, you're the liaison, so I'll
That's
send
fine.
it, I'll send it to you and you can
Okay.
forward it on.
Thank you.
Okay, next
Hmm.
is pollinator pathway. So it's Renee, it's up to you.
No,
It's your,
that's me. Sorry, I'm still writing notes. Trying to take minutes at the same time here. Sorry. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly update you guys on what I've been trying to sort of move forward in the village with the pollinator pathways stuff. So I've been working with Elizabeth Poirier, who is the local chapter head of pollinator pathways. I don't know if, well, you guys, I reported to you, but the June pollinator pathway garden tour. So we did that. We also had a table at, some of the fall events that like the Repair Cafe and things like that. So we've been trying to get the word out there to make people more aware of what the pollinator pathways is all about and how to sort of move that forward. We joined a pollinator pathways meeting that was held on November 19th, where I forget how many different chapters were present, but it was a lot. They were all in Westchester County. And it was really just to exchange ideas about what each chapter is doing in their local communities and how they're moving this thing forward. And they had some great ideas, wonderful stuff. And I'm trying to figure out what's the best way to help us in the village move this forward. One of the things that a lot of these groups are doing is they're working with their local parks departments and having in partnership with them basically, and having them sort of till and prepare an area, and then the pollinator pathways group will come in and plant it. and then they jointly maintain it. And that's happening in public spaces. And then they're also doing things with private spaces, you know, working with residents. But in terms of the public spaces, I'm really not sure how we try and move that forward. Is that, Kelly, I don't know if that's something that you can advise on. Like, can we reach out to Jerry and ask if we can work with the Parks Department on this? Like, I'm really not sure how to go about.
You're talking about
Starting.
putting these plantings in public spaces, right? As opposed to private spaces. Yes, that's
Yeah.
something that yes, it would be with Jerry, and then he would work with Jeff on with that.
Mhm.
In terms of working in private spaces, that involves all kinds of legal issues. So
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
that's a separate issue. But if you're
Absolutely.
limiting it to public places, that's something that could be done, you know, in the planting season and with the Parks Department. Yes.
So one of the, not just one, more than one municipalities also working with them in terms of sharing the cost of actually buying these plants and putting the plants in.
Yep.
So, you know, so that's accessing, you know, part of the budget that's there
Right.
for the Parks Department to buy native plantings for those areas. And
Right.
again, so that's just,
And I'm wondering
really-
I'm just wondering to what extent this might overlap with the tree committee's work, because I know they work with Jerry on tree lists, and I'm wondering if you could work with them to get, like, you know, bushes and different, you know, smaller plants. The pollinator pathways are smaller bushes type plants. Am I right? Or no?
no, it's everything.
It's okay.
it's the
I
whole thing.
think that there's some
Trees,
good,
bushes, flowers, you name it.
I think there's some good overlap here, that if you could work with the tree committee, I mean, they work with Jerry every year on they have a budget to spend on trees to go into public spaces. And then it's a matter of prioritizing, you know, where they go and how many we can afford, and depending on how the bids come in. This year, the bids came in at crazy high prices, so they had to cut back significantly the number of trees. But this is the type of thing that it should go in with that, I would think.
Okay, so it sounds like one sort of the first step in this process is to have a meeting with Jerry. And Jeff? I mean, I don't know, or I guess that's up to Jerry.
No,
if he
I think just talking to Jerry about how this could work and to try to get a sense of how much money, how this relates to the tree budget, whether there is extra money to add for pollinating plants, or whether
Well, I'm
they,
thinking about
part of that.
all the annuals that they plant every year
yeah,
in the multiple gardens that we have in public
Right.
spaces.
Right.
It's those types of things.
yes.
And it's not necessarily putting in annuals. It's, you know, most of the native species are perennial. And so anyway, it's a whole,
Yes,
it's a whole discussion.
I think
don't wanna
I think
take
the
up time
first
here,
step
but-
I think the first step of that discussion is a conversation with Jerry
Mhm,
to get
okay.
a sense of, you know, when to talk to Jeff, how to work this into the budget. I think a conversation with Jerry is the first step.
Okay. So he basically has the authority to say, yeah, we'll take this garden, we will put native plantings in this garden, this is how we'll work together, and like he makes those decisions.
He can.
Ultimately?
He can. I mean, he comes to the board and has questions about how much to spend, and the board does get involved with, like the tree committee will make recommendations on what trees to plant. And I think your committee could make recommendations on what pollinating plants to put in. And my understanding of these pathways is that they're placed strategically, you know, within the village to coordinate with neighboring villages. So there is a pathway, you know, joining everybody up. Is that right?
that is true.
Yeah.
But it's mostly the idea is the more the better.
Yes. Yeah.
There's
Um,
nothing more scientific than that, really.
Okay.
It's just pretty much as we can get, you know.
okay. Who is the staff member who usually comes to these meetings? Is it Jerry?
It has been Jerry or Dan, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I think that that's kind of a next step that I'd like to take.
Yeah.
And there's other ideas that they have that came out of this meeting. One of the things I wondered if the committee would be interested and think it's a good use of everyone's time is to have Elizabeth come in and kind of just talk to us all about the Pollinator Pathways initiative and ways that she's thinking of trying, you know, things that she's trying to introduce locally, and, you know, just giving us ideas on how we can help. Is that something that
Elizabeth? Elizabeth is who?
Elizabeth Poirier, she's heading the Larchmont Mamaroneck Pollinator Pathways
Yeah.
chapter. Oh, David, you're muted.
I think it's an excellent idea. Maybe we could have her at the next meeting.
Yeah, she'd love the opportunity to come and talk to everybody, and she can certainly present these ideas better than I can. She knows a whole lot more about it. So I think it would be, I think it would be very interesting for the committee to listen to. So I will ask her if she can, I'll check her schedule, see if she can do either the January or the February meeting, whatever works with
Yeah.
her schedule.
And I think there's a big opportunity for people like me, for example, who like the idea of a pollinator pathway, but don't know how to go about it.
Yeah.
So instead of having, waiting for the village to have the budget, if people who are doing planting anyway can find a way to get good guidance on these issues inexpensively from somebody that knows what they're doing, I think we could make some progress that way.
Right. Yeah, and so she'll definitely, talk about that as well. I think probably for us, the majority of her talk would be on, how do we get the public spaces to be more native plantings. But yeah, definitely that's part of the aim of this whole organization is private spaces as well. So, okay, that was really what I wanted to talk about in that topic. What's
Great.
next?
Renee, does it make sense,
Yeah.
David, the committee, does it make sense to talk to Jerry in the meantime?
Yeah, I'm
I think
happy.
Renee's
do
going to,
that.
aren't you?
Sorry, David.
I
what
think
did-
isn't that what you were going to do, is talk to Jerry
Yeah.
between now?
Yes, I'm going to try and do that. It's a bit busy time of year right now, but yes, definitely. I'm going to try and get to that in the new year.
Very
Okay.
good.
Okay, the next agenda item is river maintenance and flooding. Catherine?
Yeah, so this is something I've been thinking about, and I actually went to the Board of Trustees meeting a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, Kelly, I don't know if you remember.
I do.
I asked this question, and then Sally sent around the hard copy of my question. I don't know if you got it or had a chance to read it. Did you?
Yep.
Okay, so basically, there was this idea came out of, I was listening in on a flood committee because there's a lot of concern about, what's going on with the rivers. And, obviously everyone's hoping the Army Corps is going to come and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. But that's going to take, it's going to take a lot of time for that to happen. In the meantime, there's some degradation that's already occurred. So somebody said, well, it's because someone was complaining about the river near their house. And then someone else said, well, that's on you. If the river backs onto your property It's actually your responsibility to maintain it. Halfway into the river. That it seems logical. So, so that was a question actually I brought to the village, is that the case, that if you're let's say a commercial property that backs onto whatever river, the Sheldrake or the Mamaroneck, that's behind you, are you then responsible to look after the shoreline, or the debris in the river? I didn't get an answer. I think Tom said something to the effect of, sometimes it depends. I think that's what he said. And then he also said, well, sometimes when there's a really bad situation, we send in the village. So in my letter, which I sent to you guys, is it okay if I share my screen, Kelly?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to click on that because it's easier to look at pictures than have me describe what I'm talking about. So in the memo, which I sent around to y'all, I don't know if you got it or had a chance to read it. It's about a page. So I gave a few examples. So let me see if I can. Okay, so here's one. This is the first example. So this is the Mamaroneck River behind CVS. So the building you see on the left there, the white building, that's CVS. And then there's a tree. I've only seen it from a distance. I took this picture from Jefferson Avenue Bridge. So there's a tree there. And what you see is the tree is completely covered with invasive vines. And the invasive vines are, they go up very, very high, and then they fall down and drape into the river, and they are hanging into the river. And then they're functioning like a weir, I think, not a dam, but a weir. So some water gets through, but it's capturing all the sticks, and it's also capturing a lot of trash. And you notice it also continues on to the other side too. That's not CVS property, whoever that is there. There's probably some private homes and so forth. But so this is like, to me, a really, it's a pretty extreme situation. It's a lot of vines. And if you look at, the width of the river, it's pretty obstructive. So, I mean, what my issue is, really my concern is that, fine, there's going to be engineering solutions and there's going to be this and that. People are worried about flooding, but this is a situation that exists right now. And it's been like this because I've been walking out there curious to know, are they going to do anything about it? Is somebody going to clear this out? There was some other trash around, some big stuff that did get cleared out. Maybe the DPW did it. I don't know. But I look at this and I say, whoever owns that building where CVS is, should be responsible to cut those vines off that tree or dig them out or what have you, and get them out of there, because it's creating a public hazard. This is that part of Mamaroneck that really, well, it was one of the worst hit areas. I don't know how well you know the rivers and where they all go, but it's just slightly upstream where that church, I think it's a Baptist church, was completely demolished, and a lot of homes were demolished. So it's a low area. So, and I'll just go a little further. Now, this is not CVS's property. This is closer to the Jefferson Avenue Bridge on the side opposite CVS, so going towards the harbor. And this is all, I mean, it's hard to even figure out what it is, but it's basically the whole shoreline is covered with invasive vines that have then died, and leaves are falling and they've trapped. And it's also, you can't really see in this picture, but it's also full of garbage. So the effect of these things, which are on private land, but they're encroaching into the river, is to create a problem along the river. So my question to the board, and I didn't get any answers, but is in the village code, is that a responsibility of the homeowner to maintain or to keep, the waterway clear? Or is it a responsible or not? It seems the flood committee seemed to think that it was, but but I don't know. Now, this is on behind Fayette Avenue. So Fayette Avenue is in what we call the industrial zone. The road you see there is actually 95. Okay, so if you walk along Fayette Avenue, it's, there's all these businesses. Now this is behind, let's see, what did I say? 645 Fayette. So there's like a parking lot. So you can see, you can't always see what's going on, but there's a big parking lot there. And then there's a property that's, I think it's some kind of auto stuff. And this is on their property as it backs on to the Sheldrake here. So what's happened here is, for whatever reason, a lot of logs and things have fallen over. There's dead trees. They've fallen into the river. And it's practically a dam, really. It's virtually a dam. This is another shot like the other side. I have oodles of shots. This is just one of them. The kind of garbage that's there. This is actually on the 95 side of it, but so anyway, again, I don't know if it's in village code, but it seems reasonable to me that it should be. So this could be maybe something we propose or the flood committee proposes. I suspect it's in the code already, but when I look at this, okay, this is a big mess. But on the other hand, all along there, you've got Save a Tree, you've got all these arborists and so on and so forth. I mean, I could practically go in there with a couple of my sons and drag out half this stuff myself, it looks terrible, but it's doable. But the problem is this is existing right now. So, in another heavy rain, like an Ida type situation, the facts on the ground are going to make it worse. This is, I think, a major issue. So these are examples of private property. So the question there is, like Tom said, well, if we see an issue, we send the DPW in. Okay, well, that's DPW workers who are getting paid, who are using their vehicle, and they're doing that instead of something else that they need to do. And if it's already in the code that the property owner, be they commercial or private, has a responsibility to clear blockages and garbage out of the river, then I think we should enforce that, because, that why should the taxpayer pay for that? So let me move on, because I want to give you two other examples too. Okay. I showed you that one already. Now, this is the one that really, really bothers me. Okay. I don't know if anybody recognizes this site. Kelly, you probably do, right?
Mhm.
You know the site, right?
I
So
do.
this is the salt shed. It's Village of Mamaroneck property. I don't know if my cursor, you can see, can you see my cursor on the screen?
Yeah,
Okay,
Mhm.
okay, so, I don't know the history of this or why it's like this, but this area here, and there is a cement thing, and there are a couple of, there's a couple of pieces of, a couple of those hay things, like, I think there's 3 or 4 here. But the sand comes right up to the top. And then I didn't take a picture, but this parking lot is massive. It goes on and on. It connects to other parking lots. So it's a huge impervious surface. And I think you can see pretty clearly what the results have been. Now, all here, this would normally be full of, bushes or something. It's all been cut down. And you can see the results of the siltation, which is massive, like an island, and it's capturing, tires and debris and garbage and so on and so forth. So, I mean, here's my hope. I know that the village plan is to have an emerald ring and to restore these roads and have pathways along. I mean, what needs to happen right away is some kind of plastic fencing along here like you have on a building site to capture all this silt, to keep it out of the river. But beyond that, you know, we could do plantings along here, native plantings, pollinators, right? Willow trees or those small, I have on my side of my house, these small willow bushes. They cost me like $8. You know, I bought them in one of those seed catalogs, not even, they cost me nothing. And they're now huge, and it's a native species and it absorbs water, which is good for the flooding. But beyond that, it, you know, it'll stop and, you know, all this stuff getting into the river. And so I'm gonna, you know, moving along. And by the way, these are just some of the examples, you know, this is looking the other way. So you see the net effect of it as those islands go on, as they capture more debris, as they slow down the water flow, there's more siltation that occurs. And it's starting to create like a little dam in front of this bridge. And this all up in here is all kinds of garbage and, you know, debris. You know, I get it. We had a flood and all that, you know, I know, and all this garbage, but still, you know, this is a hazard. So, you know, we're just talking about, you know,
Where is this exactly?
okay, if you go on Fenimore, okay, so Fenimore goes down through what we call the industrial district, right? And then it crosses over the river, and then it crosses over 95, and then it begins its ascent into a more residential area. But on the corner, as you leave that industrial area, so up here, this is 95. This is the Sheldrake. The Sheldrake runs along 95, and you know, right up against 95. And then this is literally on the corner of Fenimore and 95, if you will. Do you know where Bub Walker Park is? Do you know where the community garden is?
No.
Okay,
Yeah.
you're across Fenimore from the community garden. You're across Fenimore. That's where
I
you are.
think, is that where Majestic Kitchens is? And
Yeah,
Yes.
Majestic Kitchens is like the next thing over.
right.
Okay,
Okay.
but the salt shed is here. You know, I mean, I think an environmentalist could make an argument that that's not a good location
Yeah.
for something like that.
Yeah.
You know? But you know, but I also think, just as practical people, there's a project here to restore this. This is, you know, extremely degraded, and frankly, I think it's embarrassing, you know, that this is village land, you know. So you see this bridge. This is Fenimore that you're seeing, and if you were to cross that bridge to the other side, that's where the community garden is, and that little walkway that goes along the Sheldrake that comes out at Bub Walker Park. So that's where you are. So just to get a sense, so this is on that now. This is actually right next to the community garden, so it's pretty bad too, because look at the amount of invasive vines there are here. It's pretty extreme, and what happens is this has not been cleared out. I'm going to guess for years. You know, I mean, I'm just basing on my own gardening and how long it takes things. You know, they build up each year, they die, they collect stuff, and it builds up into a kind of a mat that is then going into the river and constricting the river's flow. So it's ugly, captures garbage, but it's also harming just from a purely practical flood control standpoint. You know, and now here's another example. This is Columbus Park. This actually, these banks were all restored with a grant. I think Kelly would know, but the county, probably, I'm going to guess maybe 10, 15 years ago, the county gave money and they completely pulled out all the invasives and restored these banks. But you see how blocked up the river is. Again, it's these invasive vines that are a pain in the neck. You know, I mean, like here's the other side of the river, more, you know, invasive vines that are, of course, capturing garbage and blocking up the river. And now here's an example. This is right next to the river of a beautiful tree, an old, mature tree that is, it's not as bad as the one behind CVS, but it's pretty bad. And it's got a lot of vines on it that are harming the river. They're also not helping the tree.
Hmm.
And if you look at the size of these vines, they're pretty thick. You can kind of see here, I don't know if I can make it any bigger, but you know, if you walk down there and take a look, anyhow, so, you know, kind of the argument that I wanted to make at the board, but it was, that meeting started late and they had a big agenda and everybody seemed very stressed out. So I kind of really truncated my remarks. But my feeling, what I said in my letter is that, you know, I live on a corner and I like to have a lot of plantings. And on my corner, I've got all kinds of rugosa roses and all kinds of stuff. And I got a knock on my door from Charlotte Mountain Code Enforcement, who told me it's a problem. You got to clean it up or I'm going to give you a ticket. And, you know, and I cleaned it up and I didn't get a ticket. But it's like, to me, this is, you know, any of you, all of, you know, those of you who garden know that, you know, if you get some kudzu in your yard, you pull it out. If you leave it till next year, it's hard. You're going to have to get a shovel and on it goes. And then you're going to, you know, it just gets worse and worse. Whereas from what I understand, I don't think there's a maintenance, you know, we have maintenance for everything. We have maintenance for, you know, whatever. But this aspect of the village, which I think is one of the most wonderful things about the village, is these rivers. I just adore them. And I think they have so much potential to just enhance our lives much more than they are. But, you know, we've, you know, we're, you know, we need to do more. So was there any follow-up on that, Kelly, at all, do you think?
I think there were a couple questions that came up during the meeting that
Okay.
have not been answered since then, which are, you know, I think Tom made the point that he doesn't know whether the code requires this cleanup. I think it depends on the particular property owner, right?
Mhm.
Some properties go to the middle of the river and some don't.
I see.
And so you have to really look at the boundaries of every property to see what this is.
Right. Okay.
So my initial reaction as somebody that knows a little bit about this area is that DEC takes a very dim view of people actually doing things along rivers without a permit. DEC is very protective of wetlands and actually you can get in trouble.
Okay.
Not just that you, there's nothing, I doubt that there's any ordinance that requires you to clean up along the river, but I think you could run afoul of DEC if you did. So I think you've pointed out a really important set of issues that I'm not sure where they fall in. I think they fall in between the cracks, which is why they haven't been addressed. One of the things I was thinking of is that because they affect water quality, it's possible that somebody like Save the Sound would be interested. I don't know that for a fact. Maybe they think of their jurisdiction as the sound and not the water bodies that feed into it. Although I think they take a longer view than that. And it's possible that somebody from Save the Sound could get interested in this issue.
Mhm.
I was doing water testing for them over the summer, actually, and I was testing water in the Sheldrake and the Mamaroneck rivers in Columbus Park. So I just noticed there's an email today from them saying about the report from the summer water quality testing. So
well, if you have contacted Save the Sound, Debbie, you might get copies of these pictures and show them to whoever might be interested there and see if they would take some initiative and in terms of raising these issues with the village or otherwise.
I mean,
see if I can
is-
find somebody there.
it's very complex, you're right, because it does cover so many boundaries, but invasive species is not going to necessarily be Save the Sound's strength.
Right.
And it is a mix of private business and village property. I mean, even along the river, I forget the name of the street, Tompkins, has a name. It's called Phillips Park,
Mm,
but it's not maintained. It's not cleaned, and looks, except for that I can tell when we, clean it during the cleanups. There's no trash can, there's no facilities, there's no life preservers, there's no, but it's a named park. So, Save the Sound is great, but invasive species are like a complete different burrito. I mean, it's
I think
gonna
they
be a
look
challenge
more-
for them.
They look more at sewage leakage
right.
like that. That's more what they're looking for.
I mean, I think we need to just know where the village stands as far as where's the line of responsibility. If it's down to the boundary lines and there's no consistency, then I don't know where to, I mean, just we have to find out what we can mess with and then start messing with it, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I think
Tom,
the other thing, Catherine, is that to the extent that this exacerbates flooding,
Hmm.
that would be a hook to get people interested too, because that's one of the things that has gotten a lot of attention recently. And if you could clear out the obstructions in the rivers and take down some of the things that are preventing free flow of water, you'd be potentially ameliorating a future flood. Why wouldn't
Absolutely.
people be interested in that?
I mean, Tom has been really pushing to get the Army Corps of Engineer plan to dredge out the Sheldrake and the Mamaroneck rivers. And, that would certainly be in the areas that you're showing, I would imagine. But that plan, I think is going to go, but who knows when that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, Kelly's been in meetings with them, but I mean, through the grapevine, one hears that it's in the design phase and that the design phase is going to take the better part of a year.
Right.
And then they have to, move forward and get rights of way and do what have you. And, so it's a minimum of a year before any construction would even begin. Whereas, to me, this just, I don't know how you slice it exactly, but it's hurting the health of the river. But in a large flood, these are, going to be contributing factors that's going to make it worse.
And damaging to bridges. We already are down a couple of bridges. I mean, I can't help it to have garbage from private properties smash into the bridges. I was watching, people's garden sheds get crushed against the bridges. I mean, it's not just,
Yeah.
and then it all goes into the sound. So which is where the sound picks it up. But yeah, I really don't know where we start with this. I don't know where we start to pick it up, because we can hope for the big plan, which I would like the environmental committee to be involved with, but in the mainstay, in the meantime, I don't know what we do.
I was, when Renee was talking about the pollinator pathways things, I was looking because I know that, and I found that George Latimer has a whole thing about pollinators and preventing invasive species. And there's a whole resolution about both pollinators and native species and prevent invasive non-native plants from threatening our local environment. So I don't know, even some of this may even be county land. I don't know, maybe if there are multiple places involved in all of this.
Well, in the case, sorry, and I was just gonna say, in the case of Columbus Park, that's parkland that's, belongs to the village on both sides of it, of either the Sheldrake as it comes in. And there's no reason why they can't clean that up and get those vines out of there. And it would be great if like, let's say whoever owns the CVS would clean that up behind there because it's a problem. And but why should the village have to pay however many, probably quite a lot of money to get a crew back in there now, because it's so far gone. If you keep all this up, on an ongoing basis, just as part of your routine maintenance, like you're shoveling snow, no biggie, then it's not a problem. But if you let it go for years and years and years and don't touch it, then you got a giant problem on your hands. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, I think I put the question to the village and, but I'm wondering if it's something the committee wants to support, as something that they should be looking at.
Well, I would support it. I think, you've opened our eyes to an issue that I don't think a lot of us know about. And to the extent that we have all these beautiful, potentially beautiful waterways that we are not only not maintaining, but allowing to degrade in a way that makes them dangerous and also contributes to negative water quality, I think we ought to be doing something. I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah, I don't know what we should do. It sounds like there's like so many different fronts that we need to come at this from, that it's hard to know where to start.
So I think it would be good if we had, we have these committees within the committee for the environment, maybe this would be Ellen's call, but I would be happy to suggest to her that we create a committee on waterways or something and have you appointed the chair of it. And I think we should do something about it without knowing exactly what.
Yeah, well, I mean, my question to the village was simply, is there code? I mean, I guess, and like you answered, it depends on the property and exactly where the borders are. But could we be doing more in the way of code enforcement to mitigate this situation? And then so it's kind of two pieces. And then on village land, should we not, be better maintaining the public, the resource that that belongs to all of us as taxpayers, and that's being neglected.
Okay, so I have one further comment. We're sort of running out of time, but I have one further comment, and that is we do have a comprehensive plan that is being worked on. Someday it will come back and we will actually be able to maybe get it approved. But I'd like to, and I don't know what is in the comprehensive plan about our waterways, but if we don't have anything there right now, we should have that considered, that set of issues considered in a comprehensive plan. Because it is what makes part of the, as you say, Catherine, it makes the community what it is, and to allow our waterways to be degraded this way is just not responsible on our part.
So, I mean, that's, when you refer to the comprehensive plan, you're not talking about the, what do you call it? The LW, what the heck is it? Not the waterfront protection.
No, this is a comprehensive plan that the village started rewriting. I think you supposedly have to do a comprehensive plan every 5 or 10 years. We're a little behind, and it was started and got ahead of steam before COVID hit, and it's been put sort of on the back burner until we're through it. But we raised the issue with Tom at our last meeting, and he said, oh yeah, we're going to get to that next year. Well, we'll see, but
okay.
The idea is a good idea.
But I have seen various drafts and things, that talk about, even there's a plan for the industrial area to make, public walkways and things, along the rivers. So,
So what I would suggest on this one is why don't we take up the idea, maybe next meeting when Ellen's back, about creating a committee on waterways or whatever you want to call it, and actually having a bunch of us take a careful look at what the condition of the waterways and what can be done about them. Because I think we can't decide it tonight, and there's a lot of information we still need.
Right. But I think just even based on the very preliminary work that I did, I think we can ask the village to respond and to tell us where they stand with, routine maintenance of their properties and, code enforcement of commercial properties what are the facts? Is that fair?
Well, I think, yeah, I think it's fair.
Okay, do we need a motion to do that, to ask Kelly to do that, or how does this work?
Well, I think Catherine, you did bring this before the board at the last meeting, so.
Okay.
I mean, it is there and you've written, so it's there, and Jerry is aware of it, Dan Sarnoff is aware of it, and the Board of Trustees is aware of it.
Great, okay. Okay, so sorry for such a long report.
No, but I think that
Get her
you
off this
brought,
committee, God damn it, she won't shut up.
no, I mean, I think you brought to our attention a set of issues that at least some of us were not aware of. So thank you.
That was really, really interesting.
Thank you for giving me
Yeah.
the opportunity.
So we have one final agenda item. It's called Conservation Plaques at Harbor. I don't know whose agenda item is it? It is, but whoever wanted to put that on the agenda, it's your turn.
I think it was Ellen's, and it came from someone outside who brought to her attention, our attention, about the plaques along the
Right.
West Basin, where there's like, like educational plaques about the whatever the.
Yeah, who maintains those? Is that the village?
I believe so.
That, I think that was those were put in by the county. That was a county thing. But then I think once those things are put in, then it becomes the village's responsibility to maintain.
Are they at Harbor Island? Is that it?
Yeah,
Maybe
I
this.
walk there all the time. There, some of them are a mess. Some of them just maybe needed to clean up, but so they built that whole like sort of conservation area, and there's marshland, and it's really nice. And
Yeah.
they have signs with different bird life and
They put
what the
native
plants
species in
are,
there.
et cetera.
They put
And-
lots of native plantings.
Yeah,
That's what
and
it
it just
is.
and the signs are dirty and starting to peel, and so they're hard to read. I think that's
So wouldn't it be just a
Yes, it is.
matter of contacting whichever village department is in charge of maintaining that area and saying, can't you clean the signs,
Clean
repair
it
the
up.
signs, put in new signs? It can't be that expensive.
It might be that. It might be as easy as that. No idea.
That, Kelly, is that something you could take
Yeah,
forward for?
I can write to Jerry about that.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
So I think we're at the end of the formal agenda. Is there any other business that anybody wants to raise right now, or do we go to, I don't know that there's any public comment. We typically don't have much public comment. No public comment. Anybody with any new issues to raise now? Well, hearing none, I'd move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
good
Happy
holidays.
Happy
holidays.
holidays.
Take care
Happy
all.
holidays.
Enjoy Florida.
Thank
Kelly,
you.
good luck in Florida. We'll miss you.
Thanks.
And thanks,
Thank
David,
you.
for hosting the meeting.
And
Yeah.
David, if you could send me a copy of the resolution, so I
I
can,
will indeed.
thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.